Hola chicos, so today we're learning something a little bit more difficult. If you're looking at the lesson for today, which is Unit 1, Lesson 1, which is for the 17th and 18th of November. We did a little bit of Quizlet Live, which I said obviously you can't really participate in. We did check and review Part C. We did not actually move on with Part B. We did not have a ton of time. We moved right into, after checking the homework, we went right into our stem changers because subjunctive has some stem changings. And so we want to make sure that we understand those. So if you click on this handout, it should take you to this handout right here. And this kind of gives an overview of how to stem change in the subjunctive form. So normally if you think back to Spanish 1, we realize that when we clump our verbs together, we normally do AR verbs have one ending and ER and IR verbs have another. But here we're actually we're gonna clump our AR and our ER verbs together here. Oh, I don't want to do that. And our AR and verbs together, and they are going to stem change inside the boot and not stem change outside the boot. So really, this should be nothing new. It's just a little reminder. So here we have pensar, which means to think. So E changes to IE inside the boot, okay, just like this. And same thing with poder, O-T-U-E, inside the boot. And then outside the boot, it keeps the E or keeps the O, which we should know from Spanish 1 and also in Spanish 2. Now, don't forget to do your opposite ending because we're still talking about subjunctive. So AR verbs end in an E, ES, E, hemos, es, en. And same thing here, except opposite is ER verbs change with an A. So A or a, as, a, hemos, es, an. So those ones are pretty simple. In your handout, it's going to ask you to stem change easy verbs that we've done in the past, like contar, pensar, empezar. Notice that empezar and almorzar, remember on those two that they're going to change Z to C as well throughout the entirety of the conjugation. So these ones are pretty straightforward. We've seen them before. It's really these ones over here, the IR stem change, are difficult because they do a double stem change. So I'm going to pull up a little visual here. If you click on this visual, I drew this on the board for everybody, but it's just a little bit of a visual for you to see what changes where. So, oh, darn it. Okay, so here's our boot, and the ones we just practiced, E to I, E, O to U. But if it is a subjunctive stem changing verb and it's IR, only IR, it will do both a stem change inside the boot, the regular one, and it will do a different stem change outside the boot. The only two stem change that can happen outside the boot are E to I and O to U. So, for example, the word dormir is going to stem change O to UE inside the boot in the yo, tú, ele, usted, ellos, ellas, ustedes form, and the O to U is going to happen only in the nosotros and vosotros, okay? So it's going to do a double, which is a little bit more because you have to recognize that there's a stem change inside the boot, a stem change outside the boot, and then there's also still the opposite ending because we're doing subjunctive. So it's going to be a, as, a, amos, ais, on for these endings. So if you want to see an example of that, I have an answer sheet here. Give me 1 second. I just had it. Nope, that's not it. Here we go. So if we want to see the word dormir, here's an example. So dormir is going to change O to UE inside the boot to duerma, duermas, duerma, and then duerman. Outside the boot is going to be O to U, so we have duermamos and we have duermais. So I will give you actually all the answers once you take the time to go through these from watching this video. So the nice thing about a couple of these words like pedir and seguir that you get from your handout here is that they change E to I normally, but they also change E to I outside the boot. So it kind of makes it easier because then it stem changes E to I in every single form. So for pedir, we have pida, pidas, pida, pidamos, pidais, and pidan. When we go to the word seguir, the yo form is sigo. You take away the O, opposite ending would be siga, 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 sigamos, sigais, and sigan. So all of these are different stem changers. Sorry, all of these are not different. I apologize. They're all the same. So E to I, both inside the boot and both outside the boot as well. Sorry, I had someone come in my room and that really threw me off. Okay, so then we have ones that change E to I and O to UE. Like, for example, divertir, dormir, things like that. They're going to have one change in these four forms.
Louis Reeves, please report to lot C for driver's ed. Louis Reeves, please report to lot C for driver's ed.
Well, Louis E, report to driver's ed. Okay, so sorry, that was a school announcement. So this has, these ones out here are outside the boot. Okay, these two right here. Those are outside the boot, which means they are only doing E to I and O to U, the second stem change. So I would say fill out your charts. If you can print this off, great. If not, you can do it on Notability, because these will be the verbs when we come to the Unit 1 test. These will be the only verbs that you are expected to know that are stem changers off of this specific list. There are more, but instead of making you memorize all of them, these are the handful that we are going to teach you about. So these are your regular ones. You can pause the video to make sure that you can fill them out. So contar, pensar, empezar changes on all forms. And then almorzar, again, changes Z to C in all forms, but still only does the O to U inside the boot, not outside. Your ER verbs, we have poder, volver, entender, and perder. And I'll move this a little up so you can see it. So again, you can pause the video to fill these out. All right, and then we have our double stem change IR. These are honestly the hardest ones. So you can pause the video again. Notice that the E changes to an I in every single form. Sirva, an opposite ending of an IR, is an A. Sirva, 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 sirvamos, sirvai, sirvan. Pedir changes E to I in all forms. And seguir changes E to I in all forms, both inside and outside the boot. Now, dormir changes O to UE and O to U outside the boot. Morir does the same thing. O to UE inside the boot, O to U outside the boot. Preferir is tricky because there's lots of E's and I's and IE's, and it gets tricky. Make sure that you're stem changing the second E here, not the first. So we have prefiera, prefieras, prefiera, prefiramos, change it to just an I. Prefirais, change to just an I. Prefieran. Now, note that I took off this word on the chart because you don't need to know it. It means to warn, and we don't use it very often. I can't even say that I don't think I've really ever had to use it when I've spoken Spanish, which is a good amount of the time. Then lastly, we have divertirse. There are four things to recognize in this. The first stem change inside the boot, the second stem change outside the boot, the reflexive pronouns, and the opposite endings. So make sure you have me divierta, te diviertas, se divierta, nos divertamos, os divertáis, se diviertan. So I'm not giving any points for filling out this chart, but you will be expected to know these for your tests. So I suggest that you fill out this chart, okay, by pausing the video and filling it out. You can print it off, do it on Notability. You can steal from the examples that I gave. Hopefully that makes sense. These are our double stem changers or our subjunctive IR stem changing verbs. So if we go back to our lesson, remember you need to email me your homework, which was part C, numbers 8 to 15. You do not need to do any Quizlet Live. You need to download the stem changer handout that we just went through and fill in the chart. All right. Gracias. Adios, chicos.